Thank you, Chair. The Windsor framework was meant to offer Northern Ireland businesses the best of both worlds. Frictionless access to the EU and the rest of the GB. However, recent reports tells us that 2/3 of Northern Ireland-based business respondents have no understanding of the framework and have not taken advantage of it, whilst 1/3 of UK-wide respondents who move goods between the GB and Northern Ireland have stopped supplying their customers. So 2 questions. What's gone wrong? And will the one-stop shop that we recommended and you have applauded and said you will indeed bring in, will it solve the issue?
I think it's always fair to reflect that this is not a situation that I would choose to be starting in this position. I suspect that's the same for you, Mr. Kohler, as well. I think fundamentally it's about reducing those frictions at every opportunity, and I think it's about supporting those businesses to trade. And I think there's a lot of positives we can speak to. I think progress is evidently being made, and I look for more progress each and every day, and that's right. And I think that we are in a stronger position today than we were a few years ago.
How is progress being made if 1/3 of those who used to transfer goods to Northern Ireland have stopped doing so? That's not progress, surely.
Well, progress in terms of the nature of the deals that we're going to be striking with the European Union to make sure that trade...
Northern Ireland companies trade between Northern Ireland and the GB and Northern Ireland and Europe, where they're not... It seems all the evidence we see is they are not getting the benefits, whilst in fact many of those who supply goods from the GB to Northern Ireland have stopped doing so. Now that's not progress being made, that's us going backwards.
One thing I'll say is from the Northern Ireland Protocol that we had and the level of checks that would have to take place, we are in a substantially better place, and I would like to think that after the food and drink deal, an SPS agreement is struck and implemented, we'll be in a better place again, but it won't be enough. I'll continue to want to make sure that businesses are supported right through this to improve trade. And I think I noted that 71% of businesses said that dual market access is actively helping them grow or increase sales. That to me is important, and I think that dual market access, it's something talked about in Northern Ireland, but it's also recognised by investors around the world. When I was trying to drum up investment and support in Boston, many of those businesses, some already have ties and investments in Northern Ireland, some looking to expand, some looking to potentially move into the market. Many of them recognise what a benefit that brings.
Can I press you on that? Because I've got a statistic here that says 2/3 of Northern Ireland businesses have no understanding. You're telling me over 2/3 say it is helping them.
Well, market access is helping, let's be clear.
Yes.
I think that you're right as well, and you mentioned about the one-stop shop, to point out that we don't want complexity. That the point was made by Mr. Hoare earlier, which is the businesses are looking for simplicity and certainty. So we're not looking for complexity, and that's why we are working closely. I must say it's why it's so important that we've reset that relationship with the European Union so that we can negotiate a much better system for people. But you mentioned earlier the one-stop shop. For me, that goes to the challenge we got earlier, which is it has to be there, and this committee's obviously put a significant amount of weight behind that recommendation too. We take that really seriously, as have others. That has to really help those businesses navigate this. And I think the committee in its report suggested that it should go further. This one-stop shop should not simply stop talking about this issue, but look at what other things can be done. I think that's interesting. I think you'd rightly say to me, get the basics right first, which we need to do.
What's the timescale on getting the basics right, getting the one-stop shop up and running? What are we talking about?
So it was announced, if we think about it, it was announced last year at the budget. Naturally, no money was available till this financial year. There's been some engagement really important to work this out with businesses across Northern Ireland. That's quite important, all the businesses that would be impacted by this one-stop shop. The next steps are to start building this out, getting the technology working, and within this financial year,
right,
I'm hoping we will have a one-stop shop up and running, available to those businesses.
By April next year.
I have no doubt. If not, I'll be before the committee in April next year.
You will. And you will guess this next question. By what metric will we judge its effectiveness?
I love these metrics.
I realise that.
I think it's a really fair question, and I don't have an answer directly. If I think about that openly, what would the metrics be for success of this? Presumably, the number of businesses that are accessing it. After they've utilised this system, I think we should make sure we're trying to get some feedback to hear how that's working for them and how it's not, because this has to be. Look, even I'm an optimist, right? Even the most optimistic part of me doesn't think you get this right first time and everyone goes, this is swimmingly brilliant. So when people are utilising the system, when they are making use of this one-stop shop, what feedback are they giving, either to us, but also to the many politicians, I'm sure to yourselves, to the business groups, and we'll have to absolutely reflect on that and make sure that we're improving it.
Okay, before I turn to Mr. McDougall, can I just ask you, not now, but later, can you write to the committee telling us where the source of your 71% figure, because that's not the figures we've seen about how much Northern Ireland businesses are. You don't need to do it now.
It was as of October 2023, but I will happily give you the source of that. Yep. That recognise the benefits of dual market access, which
that's before it became operational. The Windsor framework became operational.
I was talking about the benefits of dual market access, right, which I think is particularly important.
The Windsor framework is dual market access, and the result is that it's not provided that for them. So yes, I'm sure many thought it was a good idea. Okay. But the trouble is now they're saying 2/3 are saying they are not getting any benefit and know nothing and don't know how to access it. Okay, Mr. McDougall. As I've said earlier, many GB-based businesses are not or have stopped exporting goods to Northern Ireland. Mm-hmm. Due to ignorance, we are told, not knowing how, not being scared by the supposed obstacles. What are we doing to educate them in how they can maintain trade with Northern Ireland?
Well, as I said earlier on, we're trying to improve the simplicity and accessibility of our business advice across the board. I think one of the things I'll take away from this conversation is to make sure that we are thinking about that in terms of internal trade, as well as external trade as well. But it's a perennial problem of any sort of, as Mr. Kohler sort of referred to earlier on, any complexity in trading will often result in people making the decision not to act, and we miss out on a huge amount of economic activity because of that. So it's something I'll take away from this committee and make sure that through the Business Growth Service we're
communicating with GB-based companies about.
Yeah, we're also through the Business Growth Service looking at the introduction of AI-powered advice as well. So I was recently shown a early, so I think the term is beta version of it, and I threw at it, I am a cake manufacturer seeking to export to the United States, and was really surprised with the accuracy of the advice and how tailored that advice is. And I think that's where we would like to get to with advice, not just for, as I say, exporters, but for internal trade as well.
Yeah, and so the data that Paul was using was from the FSB survey, which was published in June of last year. So obviously different data to what you were giving us, Minister, about attitudes probably towards dual market access, and the opportunities that were there.
Yeah, I mean, I know in 2024 there was a substantial increase in exporting to the European Union, which would demonstrate to me that there are real benefits that many businesses do recognise, but I hear the point, I take the point.
The Windsor framework only came into effect in May 25, of course. We're talking about post then.
Yeah, so, I'm going to go to Gavin, but I was just going to say, there is confusion over what paperwork needs to be used, and when I raised the issue over paperwork from, GB to Northern Ireland, it was said that invoicing system didn't need to be used. But then hauliers were kind of getting involved, and they were saying that it did need to be used. Yeah. So there's a lot of myths to dispel, and we recognise that those difficulties, and
well, that's something we can take away and work together on, make sure the business advice is
but also with the
simple and
the one-stop shop,
accurate.
maybe AI is the way the government's going to take it forward, but I think people in Northern Ireland, particularly small and medium-sized enterprises, need to have that person-to-person contact as well.
I totally take that, because obviously the advice will be obviously for GB businesses looking to trade in Northern Ireland too. But to your point, there's nothing more frustrating than dealing with a chatbot and thinking, I'm not quite sure about this. So there will be the opportunity for people to pick up the phone and speak to a human being, which I think if I could replicate that across every service I ever have to deal with, I'd be a happy man.